The gate agent's voice cut through her thoughts. Are you boarding? Kira looked down at the boarding pass. At the passport Min-jun had moved heaven and earth to get for her. At the ticket to freedom that had cost him everything. Kira took a deep breath. No, she said quietly. The gate agent blinked. Excuse me? I'm not boarding. Kira's voice grew stronger. I'm not getting on that plane. Ma'am, this is the final... But Kira was already turning away, her box braids swinging as she walked back into the terminal. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Her hands shook. Every logical part of her brain screamed that she was making a mistake. But her soul, the part of her that had been slowly dying in that penthouse until Min-jun had accidentally brought it back to life. That part sang. She wove through the crowds, moving against the flow of travelers. People stared at the black woman in the purple Northwestern sweatshirt, practically running through the airport, tears streaming down her face. She didn't care. She pulled out the burner phone Tae-sung had given her, the one with only his number programmed in. Her fingers fumbled with it as she walked. Before she could dial, it rang. Don't, Tae-sung's voice said when she answered. No greeting. Just that single word. Kira's steps faltered. What? Don't do what you're about to do. Get on that plane. Mr. Kang sacrificed everything to give you that ticket. I know what he sacrificed. Then don't waste it. Tae-sung's voice was harsh, urgent. His father has men watching the airport. If you don't board that plane, they'll know within minutes. They'll find you. They'll kill you. And they'll make sure Mr. Kang watches. Kira stood in the middle of the terminal, travelers flowing around her like water around a stone. Where is he? At the Shilla Hotel. The wedding. Kira, please. I've known Mr. Kang since he came back from LA after his brother died. I've watched him become something cold and dead. You brought him back to life. Don't throw that away by throwing away your own life. Tell me where the wedding is, Kira said. Her voice didn't shake anymore. The exact location. Now. Tae-sung was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed, defeated. The grand ballroom. But Kira, his father's men are everywhere. Security is airtight. You won't make it past the lobby. Then I'll die trying. She started walking toward the exit, toward the taxi stand. Better to die fighting than live as a coward. You sound like Mr. Kang's brother, Tae-sung said softly. That's what got him killed. Then at least I'll die in good company. She hung up before he could argue. In a black sedan parked outside the international terminal, one of Kang Dae-jung's men spoke into his radio. Target confirmed. She's leaving the terminal, not boarding the flight. Repeat. Target did not board Flight 285. The voice that crackled back was cold, amused. Follow her. Don't engage. Yet. Let's see where the little bird flies. The man grinned. Yes, sir. He gestured to his partner, and they pulled out into traffic, following the taxi that had just picked up a black woman with box braids and a purple sweatshirt. She was heading toward Gangnam, toward the Shilla Hotel. This was going to be entertaining. The grand ballroom was a vision that had cost more money than Kira's entire cafe had been worth. Cream and white silk draped from the 30-foot ceilings. Crystal chandeliers, each one probably worth a year of Kira's rent, cast prismatic light across 500 guests in designer formal wear. Flower arrangements that belonged in art museums decorated every surface. A string quartet played Pachelbel's canon with perfect, soulless precision. It was beautiful. It was suffocating. Min-jun stood at the altar in his custom tuxedo, his face a perfect mask. He'd learned to wear masks well over the past 7 years. This was just another one. The dutiful son, the perfect heir, the groom who definitely wasn't dying inside. His father sat in the front row, sharp eyes missing nothing. A predator in an expensive suit, watching to make sure his investment paid off. Hae-in's family sat across the aisle, beaming. Their daughter was finally marrying into the Kang family. Years of patience, years of waiting, finally paying off. Everyone who mattered in Seoul's underworld sat in those pews. legitimate businessmen who laundered money, politicians who looked the other way, lawyers who made problems disappear. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a merger, a consolidation of power. And Min-jun was the currency being traded. The wedding march began. The doors at the back of the ballroom opened with theatrical precision. Hae-in appeared, a vision in white Vera Wang. The dress had been flown in from New York, custom-made, fitted 3 times. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like every bride's dream. She looked like everything Min-jun's world expected him to want. She began her walk down the aisle, her eyes locked on him. 15 years of waiting, culminating in this moment. Min-jun watched her approach. He should be thinking about vows, about the future, about the life they'd build together in LA. The house in Beverly Hills, the business connections, the perfect corporate marriage that would make both families richer and more powerful. Instead, all he could think was, this is forever. This is the rest of my life. His phone vibrated in his pocket. It shouldn't be on. It was a massive breach of wedding etiquette. But he'd kept it on anyway, some desperate part of him still hoping. He couldn't check it. Not here, not now. Not with 500 pairs of eyes watching him, his father's gaze like a knife at his throat. Hae-in was halfway down the aisle now. The phone vibrated again. Insistent. The guest smiled, murmured about how beautiful she looked, how perfect they were. Together, how this was the wedding of the season. Min-jun's jaw clenched. Hae-in was 3/4 of the way down the aisle. His father leaned over slightly, voice barely audible. Don't embarrass me. The phone vibrated a 3rd time. Fuck it. Min-jun pulled out his phone. Gasps rippled through the crowd. His father's eyes went wide with fury. Hae-in's steps faltered. The screen showed 3 texts from Tae-ung. She didn't board the plane. She's coming to you. Your father's men are following her. She's walking into a trap. Min-jun's heart stopped. Then it started again, hammering so hard he could barely breathe. She didn't leave. She chose him. She was coming here. And his father's men were going to kill her. Hae-in reached the altar. She took his hand, her grip tight, possessive. She'd felt him pulling away all week. She wasn't letting go now. She leaned in, whispered through her perfect smile. Put the phone away. Everyone's watching. Min-jun looked at her, really looked at her. Hae-in was beautiful, patient, perfect. She'd molded herself into exactly what he was supposed to want, and he felt nothing. The officiant cleared his throat, beginning, Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Kang Min-jun and Yoon Hae-in in holy matrimony. Marriage is a sacred bond. Min-jun's phone buzzed again. Tae-sung, she's 5 minutes away. What do you want me to do? The officiant continued, a commitment before God and these witnesses to love, honor, and cherish. Min-jun looked at the phone, at the text, at the choice crystallizing before him. He could stay. He could marry Hae-in. He could let his father's men grab Kira outside, drag her away, make her disappear. He could let her sacrifice be meaningless. He could spend the rest of his life in this gilded cage, slowly dying inside, telling himself he'd done the right thing. He could survive, or he could live. The officiant, if anyone has reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. 500 people held their breath. Min-jun pulled his hand away from Hae-in's. The collective gasp was like a physical wave. I can't do this, Min-jun said. His voice carried in the sudden silence, clear, certain. Hae-in's face went white. Min-jun, I'm sorry. He looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, his expression was honest. You deserve someone who can love you the way you need. I'm not that person. I never was. You're just nervous. Hae-in grabbed at his arm. I'm in love with someone else. Welcome to Seoul Afro Stories. So, Kira refused to board that plane. Min-jun just walked away from his wedding. And now, he's confessing his love for another woman in front of 500 people. Here's my question. Would you have gotten on that plane to safety, or would you have gone back for love? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because Seoul Afro Stories is bringing you stories where love is dangerous, choices are impossible, and every episode leaves you breathless. You do not want to miss what happens next. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country below. Now, let's see if they survive what comes next. The ballroom exploded. Guests shouting, cameras flashing, Hae-in's mother screaming, her father lunging forward, and Tae-ung standing up slowly from the front row, his face a mask of cold, calculated fury. "Kang Min-jun," his father said, voice cutting through the chaos. "Sit down." Min-jun met his father's eyes. 7 years of obedience, 7 years of becoming the perfect heir, 7 years of being dead inside. No. He turned and walked off the altar. The ballroom erupted into complete chaos. Hae-in stood there in her Vera Wang gown, tears streaming down her face. 500 witnesses to her humiliation. Min-jun didn't look back. He ran. Through the ballroom doors, down the hotel corridor. Security tried to stop him. His father's men, dressed as hotel staff. "Mr. Kang, please, your father wants..." Min-jun shoved past them. He burst through the lobby doors into the Seoul afternoon and stopped, because there, climbing out of a taxi across the circular drive, was Kira. She looked up. Their eyes met. The world seemed to stop spinning. She was here. She'd come back. She'd chosen him. Min-jun started running toward her. Kira started running toward him. They were maybe 20 feet apart when the black SUVs screeched into the drive. Doors flew open. Men in suits poured out, his father's men, guns visible under their jackets. One of them raised a pistol into the air and fired. The shot cracked through the afternoon like thunder. Wedding guests who'd followed Min-jun outside screamed and scattered. Kira froze. Min-jun's heart stopped. "Nobody move!" The man with the gun pointed it directly at Kira. "Miss Collins, Mr. Kang's father would like a word." Before Min-jun could react, before anyone could react, a second car screeched up. Tae-sung. He'd driven like he'd been shot from a cannon. The car barely stopped before he was out, moving with the efficient violence of someone who'd been trained for this. "Kira, now!" Tae-sung grabbed her arm, pulled her toward his car. The men with guns moved. Min-jun ran. Everything happened at once. Gunshots, not aimed to kill, but to terrify. Marble columns exploded. Wedding guests dove for cover. Cameras captured everything. This was going to be the scandal of the decade. Tae-sung shoved Kira into the back seat. Min-jun dove in after her. Tae-sung floored it before the door was even closed. Bullets shattered the rear window. Kira screamed. Min-jun pulled her down, covering her body with his. "Stay down!" Tae-sung swerved through traffic like a man possessed. "They're following." Min-jun looked back. 3 black SUVs, weaving through our Seoul traffic, pursuing them. He looked down at Kira beneath him. Her eyes were wide, terrified. Her box braids were disheveled. She was shaking. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "You didn't get on the plane," he said. "You didn't marry her," Kira replied. Despite everything, the gunfire, the chase, the fact that they were probably going to die in the next 5 minutes, Min-jun laughed, and then he kissed her. Desperate, fierce, tasting like freedom and insanity, and the best terrible decision either of them had ever made. Tae-sung took a corner so hard they flew sideways. "This is very romantic, but could you two focus? We're being shot at." Another bullet shattered what was left of the rear window. Min-jun broke the kiss, looked into Kira's eyes. "I couldn't let you save me alone. I couldn't let you sacrifice yourself for me. We're idiots, complete idiots." They kissed again. Tae-sung made a sound of pure exasperation and swerved into an alley, so narrow the car's mirrors scraped the walls. The SUVs tried to follow. The first one made it, The second one got stuck. Where are we going? Min-jun asked. Mrs. Kim's sister's apartment in Seoul, Tae-sung said. It's not safe. Nowhere in Seoul is safe now. But it'll buy us a few hours. A few hours for what? Kira asked. Tae-sung met Min-jun's eyes in the rearview mirror. To figure out how to keep you both alive. Because Mr. Kang, your father, just put a $2 million bounty on both your heads. Every gang, every mercenary, every desperate person with a gun in Seoul is going to be hunting you by nightfall. The weight of that settled over them. $2 million. Min-jun had just walked away from his father's empire. From his wedding, from everything he was supposed to be. For a woman he'd known for 7 days. And now they were going to spend the rest of their probably very short lives running. Min-jun looked at Kira. Still glad you didn't board that plane? Kira's hands were shaking, but she smiled. Ask me again in a few hours. Behind them, sirens wailed. The chase continued. Seoul's underworld was mobilizing. And Min-jun felt, for the first time in 7 years, completely, terrifyingly, beautifully alive. Mrs. Kim's sister's apartment in Seoul was small, cramped, and smelled faintly of kimchi and old cigarette smoke. It was perfect. Nobody knows about this place except family, Tae-sung said, locking 3 separate deadbolts on the door. Mi-sun, Mrs. Kim's sister, is in Busan visiting her daughter. We have maybe 12 hours before someone thinks to check family connections. Min-jun walked to the window to stare outside. Then he went to sit beside Kira. He didn't say anything. He just took her shaking hands in his. His hands were shaking too. We're insane, Kira whispered. Completely, Min-jun agreed. We're going to die. And probably. Your father is going to hunt us down and kill us. Almost. Certainly. Kira looked at him. At this man who'd walked away from everything, his family, his empire, his entire life, for her. His dark eyes weren't dead anymore. They were alive with fear and determination and something that looked like joy. I don't regret it, she said. Min-jun lifted her hands to his lips, kissed her knuckles. Neither do I. Tae-sung finished his call, turned to face them. His expression was grim. I have good news and apocalyptically bad news. Bad news first, Min-jun said. Your father's bounty went public 20 minutes ago. $2 million for both of you. Alive. He wants to deal with you personally. Tae-sung's jaw tightened. Every crew in Seoul is mobilizing. The Yakuza connections are interested. The Chinese triads have people in the city. And, he paused. Hae-in is offering her own bounty. $1 million for information leading to your location. Kira felt the blood drain from her face. She wants us dead that badly? No, Tae-sung said quietly. She wants you to hurt the way she's hurting. Money quote from her press release. I don't want them dead. I want them to lose everything they love. The way they made me lose everything I loved. Min-jun's hand tightened on Kira's. The good news? I've been in contact with David Park in Los Angeles. Min-jun's head snapped up. David Park? Your father's enemy, yes. David Park, whose brother was killed in the Koreatown Territory War 15 years ago. He hates Kang Dae-jung more than anyone alive. Tae-sung smiled grimly. He's willing to help. Out of spite, but he'll help. He can get you into LA, set you up with new identities, a place to hide. LA, Min-jun breathed. The city where he'd been happy once. Where he and Hyun-suk had eaten at Mrs. Park's every Friday. Where he'd been himself before tragedy made him his father's weapon. There's a flight tomorrow night, Tae-sung continued. Korean Air to LAX. I can get you on it with fake passports. But, he held up a hand. You'll need to survive until then. 24 hours. And every second, more people will be looking for you. Kira's mind raced. 24 hours, 1 day. It seemed impossible, and somehow shorter than the 7 days she'd been Min-jun's prisoner. We need supplies, Min-jun said, his voice taking on the cold, calculated tone Kira hadn't heard since her first days in the penthouse. This was the Min-jun who'd run his father's operations. Money, weapons, disguises. Already done. Tae-sung pulled out a duffel bag. Cash, about 10 million won. 2 handguns with ammunition. Passports under the names Jason Park and Michelle Johnson. Plane tickets and... He pulled out a box of hair dye and some glasses. You're both too recognizable. The black woman with box braids and the Korean man with the neck tattoo. Every cop and criminal in Seoul has your descriptions. Kira touched her braids instinctively. She'd been wearing braids for 2 years. They were part of her identity now. Min-jun's hand went to his neck, to the small geometric tattoo that had been there since he was 22. A memorial to Hyun-suk, gotten 3 days after the funeral. We don't have to be ourselves anymore, Kira said quietly. She wasn't sure if that was tragic or liberating. Just for now, Min-jun said. Just until we're safe. Then we can be whoever we want. Tae-sung set everything on the table. I need to leave. My phone is being tracked. I can feel it. If I stay too long, they'll follow me here. There's food in the kitchen. Don't leave the apartment. Don't answer the door for anyone except Mrs. Kim. She'll come tonight with more supplies. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Turned back. Mr. Kong, Min-jun. His voice was rough with emotion. I've worked for your family for 15 years. I watched you become someone you hated, piece by piece. I watched you die inside after Hyun-suk. He looked at Kira. Whatever happens, whatever comes next, thank you for bringing him back. Then he was gone, 3 locks clicking into place behind him. Silence settled over the small apartment. Kira and Min-jun sat on that worn sofa, surrounded by the tools of their escape, and looked at each other. We should probably dye our hair, Kira said. We should probably eat something, Min-jun countered. We should probably make a plan. We should probably... Min-jun stopped talking because Kira was kissing him. Desperate, hungry, tasting like fear and freedom and all the words they couldn't say. His hands tangled in her braids. For the last time, maybe. Her fingers traced the tattoo on his neck, memorizing it before it disappeared under makeup. They made love on that sofa in that tiny apartment in Seoul, while outside, Seoul hunted them. No windows showing city views this time. No silk sheets or floor-to-ceiling glass. Just them, finally choosing each other without anyone else's plans or expectations in the way. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, breathing hard. In case we don't make it, Kira whispered against his chest. In case your father's men find us, or the plane gets compromised, or... We'll make it, Min-jun said, but he held her tighter. But if we don't, I need you to know. These 7 days, even with the fear and the death threats and the insanity, they were the best days of my life. Min-jun shifted so he could look at her face. His hand cupped her cheek. I love you. He'd never said it before. Not once in the past 7 days. Not when he was inside her. Not when he was giving her the envelope. Not when he was walking away from his wedding. But he said it now. In this cramped apartment with a bounty on their heads and 12 hours until their escape attempt. I love you, he repeated. I've been dead for 7 years. You brought me back to life. Whatever happens next, I got to feel alive again. That's enough. Kira's eyes filled with tears. It's not enough for me. I want forever. Then we'll get forever. Min-jun kissed her softly. We'll get to LA. We'll disappear. We'll open that restaurant. You'll teach me your mother's recipes. I'll teach you Korean techniques. We'll build something beautiful. Promise? Promise. They both knew it might be a lie, but they needed the promise anyway. Hours later, Kira sat in the tiny bathroom while Min-jun carefully applied hair dye to her braids, turning them from black to auburn. You'd think after running a criminal empire, I'd be better at this, he muttered, dye on his hands, concentration furrowing his brow. Kira laughed. You've probably never done anything domestic in your life. I made coffee once. You saw. It was terrible. It was really terrible. They fell into comfortable silence. Outside, Seoul continued its hunt. Inside, they prepared to become other people. When they were done, Kira's braids, now auburn, Minjun's dark brown hair bleached to a lighter brown, both in glasses, looking like different versions of themselves, they stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Jason Park and Michelle Johnson, Minjun said, reading from the fake passports. Engaged couple on vacation. Mrs. Kim arrived at midnight with more food and clothes. She took one look at them. Hair dyed, wearing unfamiliar clothes, looking like strangers, and started crying. "You foolish, beautiful children," she sobbed, pulling them both into a fierce hug. "You're going to get yourselves killed." "Probably," Minjun admitted. "But we'll do it together," Kira added. Mrs. Kim pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I brought news. Your father—" She looked at Minjun. "He's given a press conference. It's all over the news. He's denounced you. Called you a traitor. Said you've been brainwashed by a foreign woman. He's frozen all your accounts, revoked your access to everything. You're dead to him, officially." Minjun's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Expected. And Hae-in," Mrs. Kim turned to Kira. "She's devastated, but she's also dangerous. She knows you. She knows how Minjun thinks. She's already told the press that you'll try to leave the country, probably to the US. Security at Incheon is tripled." Kira's stomach dropped. "So we can't get out. Not through official channels." Mrs. Kim pulled out another envelope. "That's why Tae-sung arranged something else. A cargo ship leaving Busan port tomorrow evening, bound for Los Angeles. It's owned by David Park's associates. They'll smuggle you out in a shipping container. A shipping container, like cargo. Like the products Minjun's father had probably smuggled 1,000 times. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "It's a 3-week journey," Mrs. Kim continued. "Rough, dangerous, but it's the only way." Minjun looked at Kira. 3 weeks in a shipping container. No windows. Limited air. Probably terrible food. "Sounds romantic," Kira said dryly. "Despite everything," they both laughed. Mrs. Kim shook her head, somewhere between exasperated and fond. "You'll need to get to Busan by tomorrow afternoon. That's a 4-hour drive. Every checkpoint will be looking for you." "We'll make it," Minjun said. Mrs. Kim looked at him. This boy she'd watched grow up, who she'd seen transform from a grieving college student into his father's weapon, and then, impossibly, back into something human. "Your brother would be proud," she said softly. Minjun's eyes went bright. "Thank you." After Mrs. Kim left, Minjun and Kira tried to sleep. They couldn't. They lay on the sofa, tangled together, watching the hours tick by on the small clock. Each minute bringing them closer to escape or capture. As dawn broke over Seoul, they finally fell asleep in each other's arms. Their last morning in the city. They woke to pounding on the door. Minjun was on his feet instantly, gun in hand. Kira scrambled up, heart hammering. "Who is it?" Minjun called in Korean. "Mrs. Kim's sister." "Mi-soon, let me in, quickly." Minjun exchanged a glance with Kira. It could be a trap, but they didn't have a choice. He opened the door. Mi-soon rushed in, a woman in her 60s, breathless and terrified. "They know. Someone saw Tae-sung's car in this neighborhood last night. They're going building to building." Through the window, Kira could see black SUVs at the end of the street. Men in suits, moving with purpose, showing photos to residents. They had maybe 5 minutes. "There's a service exit," Mi-sun said, already moving. "Through the building's back. It leads to an alley. I have a car waiting. My daughter's. Go." Minjun grabbed the duffel bag. Kira shoved her feet into shoes. No time for anything else. They ran. Down the back stairs, Minjun's hand tight on Kira's. Behind them, they heard shouting. The men had reached Mrs. Kim's sister's floor. Into the alley. A small Hyundai waited, keys in the ignition. "Go to Busan," Mi-sun called after them. "Don't stop for anything?" Minjun floored it. Behind them, men poured into the alley. Gunshots. The Hyundai's back window shattered. Kira screamed. Minjun swerved wildly, taking corners at speeds that made the tires scream. "Hold on!" he shouted. Seoul blurred past. Morning traffic became a deadly obstacle course. Min-jun drove like a man possessed, or like someone who'd been trained by his father's drivers, which was essentially the same thing. They lost the pursuers somewhere near Gangnam. Maybe. It was hard to tell. Min-jun didn't stop driving until they hit the highway south toward Busan. Only then did he let himself breathe. Kira was shaking in the passenger seat, tears streaming down her face, her new auburn braids disheveled. "Still glad you didn't board that plane?" Min-jun asked, trying for levity. Kira's laugh was half sob. "Ask me again when we're in LA. If we make it to LA." "When?" Kira insisted. "When we make it." Min-jun reached over, took her hand. "When?" 4 hours to Busan. 4 hours to the shipping container that would carry them across the ocean to freedom. 4 hours where every second could be their last. Behind them, Seoul receded. The city that had been Kira's prison and Min-jun's cage. The place where they'd found each other in the most impossible circumstances. They didn't look back. The Shilla Hotel's presidential suite had been transformed into a war room. Hae-in sat at the center of it all, still in her wedding dress. She'd refused to change. Let them see what he'd done to her. Let them remember. Her makeup was ruined. Mascara streaked, lipstick smudged, hair disheveled. She looked like a beautiful ghost, a vengeful bride from a horror movie. Around her, screens displayed news coverage. Every channel covering the wedding scandal of the decade. Her humiliation broadcast to millions. Kang Min-jun abandons bride at altar. Criminal heir flees wedding for mystery. Woman. Yoon Hae-in left devastated as groom runs to Black American lover. That last headline made something inside her crack further. Her father paced the room, shouting into his phone in rapid Korean. Her mother sat in the corner, crying quietly. Both of them ruined by association. Their family's reputation destroyed. 15 years. 15 years, Hae-in had waited, molded herself, sacrificed her life in LA, her career, her identity, all for him. And he'd thrown it away for a girl he'd known 7 days. The door opened. Kang Tae-jung entered, flanked by his men. He looked at Hae-in with something that might have been sympathy if he were capable of such an emotion. "Miss Yoon," he said, "my sincere apologies for my son's behavior." Hae-in laughed. It sounded unhinged even to her own ears. "Your apologies? Your son just destroyed my life in front of 500 people. Apologies don't fix that." Tae-jung sat across from her, his movements precise, controlled. "No, but revenge might." Hae-in met his eyes. "I'm listening. My son has betrayed everything. His family, his duty, his heritage. All for some American girl who's been here barely a week." Tae-jung's voice was cold, measured. "He needs to be taught a lesson." "They both do." "What kind of lesson?" Hae-in's heart was pounding. "I want them found. I want them brought back. The girl..." Tae-jung paused. "She dies. Slowly. While my son watches. Then I'll deal with him personally." Hae-in should have been horrified. She should have objected, should have had some moral line she wouldn't cross. But all she felt was vindication. "I can help," she said. "I know Min-jun. I know how he thinks. And I have resources in LA. He'll run there, to his old connections. David Park." Tae-jung's eyes narrowed. "David Park, that traitor." "David Park, who hates you more than anything," Hae-in said. "He'll help Min-jun out of spite, which means we know exactly where they're going." "You seem very certain." "I've known Min-jun since we were 15. Hae-in's voice was bitter. "I know him better than he knows himself. He'll go to LA. He'll try to disappear. He'll think he's being clever." She leaned forward. "But I'll be waiting." Tae-jung smiled. It was a terrible thing to see. "What do you want in return?" "I want her to know it was me," Hae-in said. "Before she dies, I want her to know that I destroyed them. That her choice to come back, his choice to leave me, I want them to regret it with every fiber of their being." "Done." They shook hands. a deal made in hell. After Tae-jung left, Hae-in finally allowed herself to change out of the wedding dress. She stood in front of the mirror in the bathroom, looking at herself. She didn't recognize the woman staring back. When had she become this person? This vengeful, broken thing? And now, someone else, a stranger, a girl from Chicago who'd been here 7 days, had succeeded where Hae-in couldn't. It wasn't fair. Hae-in pulled out her phone, called her contact in LA, James Miller, an LAPD detective who was deeply corrupt and deeply in her pocket. "James," she said when he answered, "I need a favor." "Hae-in? Jesus, I saw the news. Are you—" "I'm fine," she lied. "I need you to find 2 people when they arrive in LA, Kang Min-jun and Kira Collins. They'll be using fake names, probably flying in through LAX or coming in by cargo ship through the port. That's a lot of entry points to monitor. I'll pay triple your usual rate." Silence. Then, "What do you want done when I find them?" Hae-in closed her eyes. This was it. The moment she became someone she couldn't come back from. "Track them. Report their location to me. Nothing else. I want to handle this personally." "You got it. I'll have people at every entry point within the hour." After she hung up, Hae-in sat on the edge of the bathtub and finally let herself cry. Not for Min-jun, not anymore. For the girl she'd been at 15, who'd believed in fairy tales and true love. For all the years she'd wasted waiting for someone who would never love her back. And for the woman she was about to become. Someone who could order another person's death without flinching. The drive to Busan was 4 hours of terror. Every car behind them could be a threat. Every checkpoint could be their capture. Min-jun drove with one hand on the wheel, one hand on the gun in his lap. They stopped once at a rest area outside Daegu to use the bathroom and buy food. Min-jun kept his head down, glasses on, trying to look like a regular person and not someone with a $2 million bounty on his head. The woman at the convenience store counter looked at him twice. Min-jun's heart stopped. "You look familiar," she said in Korean. "I get that a lot," Min-jun replied, keeping his voice light. He paid quickly, grabbed the bags, and walked out as calmly as he could manage. They reached Busan as the sun was setting, painting the harbor in shades of orange and gold. The port was massive. Hundreds of shipping containers, cargo ships from around the world, the mechanical ballet of cranes loading and unloading. Somewhere in this chaos was their escape. Tae-sung had sent coordinates. A specific dock, a specific ship. Min-jun parked the Hyundai in a public lot. They'd abandon it here. Someone would find it eventually, report it. But by then, they'd be gone. They walked through the port like they belonged there. Just another couple. Jason Park and Michelle Johnson, going to visit family in LA. The ship was called the Hanjin Progress, a massive cargo vessel that looked like it had seen better decades. Rust stains, peeling paint, but it was sailing to LA, and that's all that mattered. A man waited by the gangway. Korean, 50s, with the weathered look of someone who'd spent his life at sea. "Jason Park?" he said in English. "That's me," Min-jun replied. The man looked them over. "David Park sends his regards. Says to tell you that you're even now, whatever that means." Min-jun nodded. Some old debt between David and his father, settled by helping the son escape. "Your container is this way." He led them through the ship, down into the cargo hold. The smell hit them first. Metal, oil, seawater, and something else. The smell of things that had traveled far from home. Their container was in the middle of the stack. Modified, the man explained. Air vents installed. A small space cleared with mattresses, water, food supplies. It looked like a prison. 3 weeks, the man said. Give or take, depending on weather. We'll let you out for bathroom breaks when it's safe, but mostly, you'll be locked in, for your own safety. Understood, Min-jun said. The man looked at Kira. Last chance to change your mind, miss. 3 weeks in a metal box ain't easy? Kira thought about it. really thought about it. She could still run. She could still make it back to Seoul, find her passport, her ticket, board a plane to Chicago, go back to her life. She looked at Min-jun, at this man who destroyed everything for her. "I'm good," she said. They climbed into the container. The door sealed behind them with a metallic clang that sounded horribly final. Darkness. Complete, suffocating darkness. Then Min-jun found the battery-powered lantern they'd been left. Weak yellow light filled their prison. It was about 8 feet by 8 feet. Mattresses on the floor, boxes of non-perishable food, bottles of water, a bucket in the corner for emergencies. This was going to be their home for 3 weeks. Kira started laughing. Hysterical, exhausted laughter that turned into sobs. Min-jun pulled her close. "We're going to be okay. We're in a shipping container." "I know. Running from your father and your ex-fiancé." "I know. This is insane." "I know." Min-jun tilted her face up, kissed her softly. "But we're together. And we're alive. That's enough." Outside, they heard the sounds of the ship preparing to depart. Engines rumbling to life, chains rattling, the deep horn signaling departure. The Hanjin Progress pulled away from Busan port, carrying its cargo of electronics, textiles, machine parts, and 2 fugitives toward Los Angeles, toward freedom, or toward whatever came next. Marcus Collins sat in his cramped apartment, whiskey bottle on the coffee table, television flickering in the darkness. He'd been hiding in Houston for weeks now, ever since he'd fled Seoul, leaving Kira behind, ever since he'd chosen his own life over hers. The guilt gnawed at him sometimes, late at night when the whiskey couldn't numb it anymore. His sister's daughter, the girl he'd promised to protect after her mother died. But guilt didn't pay off $500,000 in gambling debts. Survival did. Marcus took another drink, flipping through channels mindlessly. Then he froze. The news. Korean news with English. Subtitles scrolling across the bottom. Breaking. Wedding scandal? Rocks Seoul's elite. Kang Min-jun flees altar. Massive manhunt underway. Marcus's hands started shaking. There, on the screen, footage from the Shilla Hotel. Chaos. Wedding guests screaming, and running through it all, hand in hand, Min-jun and Kira. His Kira. Alive. Very much alive. "No," Marcus whispered. "No, no, no, no." The news anchor continued in Korean. Subtitles translating. Kang Dae-jung has placed a $2 million bounty on his son and the American woman. $2 million. Marcus's vision tunneled. His heart hammered against his ribs. She was supposed to be dead. That was the deal. He'd sold her to clear his debts. Min-jun was supposed to kill her when he didn't pay. That's how these things worked. But she wasn't dead. She'd somehow made the heir to Seoul's most dangerous crime family fall in love with her instead. And now, there was a $2 million bounty on her head. Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell over. "That stupid girl!" he shouted at the television. "That stupid, stupid girl! What did she do? $2 million! Fuck!" he screamed as he held a phone with his trembling hands. "I'm sorry, Kira," he whispered to the television screen, to the image of her face. "I'm so sorry, but you should have just died. You should have just died like you were supposed to." Marcus just discovered Kira is still alive. Kira and Min-jun are trapped on a ship for 3 weeks with no idea that Marcus, Hae-in, and Dae-jung's men are all waiting for them in LA. 3 enemies, 1 destination, 0 chance of survival. If you're dying to know what happens when that shipping container reaches LA, drop part 3 in the comments right now. Smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications because part 3 is dropping soon and it's about to get brutal. And where are you watching from? Drop your location below. I love seeing our Seoul Afro Stories family grow around the world. Part 3 is coming, and trust me, you're not ready for what happens next. Seoul Afro Stories, where a family betrays you, love saves you, and survival is never guaranteed. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's go!